Hello and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Hello, and thank you for joining us today for this episode of Her Version. Thank you for those of you that are already jumping on live. If you are on a platform where you can share this podcast, please share it because there's always somebody out there in and amongst our communities that need to hear what we are talking about. The Her Version platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I'm speaking with an amazing woman named Bobbie Rogers. Bobbie is a woman in long-term recovery from a long list of addictions. She not only recovered from a life of trauma, she was able to turn her consequences into beautiful assets for her future. From the depths of hell to a life worth living, Bobbie is a certified addiction counselor, certified recovery peer specialist, certified health coach, and a mom, wife, mentor, and friend. More importantly, she is alive and passionate about telling her story to anyone it may help. Welcome, lady. How are you?
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Sabrina, so much for having me on. I'm doing wonderful this morning. Thank you.
I love it. So you and I are from the same state.
Yes.
Florida, the beautiful state of Florida. I love it when I get to have the Sunshine State people on my podcast, because so often I'm talking to people that are from somewhere totally different. So it's so cool that you're right in my backyard.
Awesome. I love it.
Yes. So I want to dive in. I know that your journey is long and wide, as a lot of our stories are. But before we kind of dive into all the goodness that you're doing for your world right now, I would love to kind of take a step back and ask you, when you think of all of the ups and downs and twists and turns that you've had in your life, what would you say has been the story that changed your entire life? And then what did you learn from that story?
For sure. Thank you, Sabrina, for leading this. I've got 100 stories, just like everybody, I'm sure. But obviously, the one most powerful story is the power of recovery from addiction and mental illness, because without that, I would not have been able to experience any other life-breaking, changing times in my life. My story began almost 15 years ago, actually, November 21st, 2007. It was the day before Thanksgiving that year. And I was looking at pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. I had been in that place so many times before in my past, but for some reason, this specific time was the most utterly emotional, mental, and spiritual bankruptcy I had ever experienced. And like I said, it was a day before Thanksgiving. And keep in mind, at that time, I had 3 children in my life, 3 beautiful children, a 5-month-old, a 5-year-old, and a 10-year-old. And they had been removed from my custody, not once, but 6 times as a result of drug addiction. And at that point in time in my journey, those 2 older children were already looking at having what's called TPR here in the state of Florida, which means terminated parental rights. I was already past the stage of getting them back. And there was my 5-month-old who was sitting in a foster care home. I had no idea where any 3 of my children were. It was the absolute most painful experience of my life. And on that day, November 21st, I'm smiling right now because I would have never thought it then, but looking back at it now, how amazing that horrible experience ended up turning out to be. I've been blessed with a wonderful journey of recovery. My journey has manifested in so many ways to impact other people's life. So I can truly say today that my history of addiction has been one of my greatest strengths. So I'd like to just stop with that so you can intercede and see if you have any other questions about it.
I love that. I love the brightness of your face. I mean, it really tells, how impactful that was. I think so many times, when individuals are in the midst of it, of the darkness, it's hard to see that you could ever get to where you are. What were the first 3 steps? People want to know this. What'd you do?
Absolutely. So, I'd attempted recovery many times before in my past, and I had deemed myself hopeless. I had all odds against me. And what I mean by that, all odds against me, was not only was I genetically dispositioned to the disease of alcoholism and addiction, but I was also raised in a home where I developed a lot of learned behaviors. I was also raised in a community of welfare and violence and crime. So these things, they put me in a category, I like to say these days, as a higher risk of falling into those behaviors. And as a result of having the learned behaviors and all odds against me, I felt despair. I felt as though I was not going to be someone who would ever walk and breathe and just feel as what I thought other human beings were experiencing. And man, I was shortchanging myself, because when I walked into a room, it was a 12-step fellowship at the time, and I still intercede with all of those things as well. But at that time, I walked into a room with a large amount of people who were doing very well with their life, and they seemed very happy. They seemed like they were experiencing joy. And what I learned was the first step was that I needed to identify and fully concede to my innermost self that I even had something that was a challenge beyond my own strength, that I needed to find solution outside of what was between my ears, because I continually tried to solve problems with the same mind that created it. So my first real step was acknowledging that I had a problem and that I myself was unable to solve that problem. And, I would say the second step in this scenario would be, well, since I am unable to solve this alone, I needed to find good people that were in my community to just grab a hold of. People who not only were not doing drugs and not drinking, but more importantly, they were having active, productive, member of society type of life. Not just your plain active, productive member of society, but also were showing signs of true happiness and joy and camaraderie and family unity. I wanted that more. And as my recovery progressed, my desire to seek these type of people, it strengthened, but it also changed over the course of these last 15 years. Just the simplicity of not drinking and drugging was all I really wanted at the beginning. And then it became, I wanted to love myself more and have a stronger confidence in myself and develop a little higher level of self-worth and start to develop more meaning and purpose. And as I was developing and changing, the people that I wanted to seek out and attach myself to, those individuals began to change as well. And through the courses of these stages I went through, those people would share their life with me. And I had to remove the idea that I knew everything there was to know about everything there was to know. And that was hard for me. Shockingly enough, I really thought I knew it all. I don't know what evidence proved to me that I knew it all, because I was really in a bad place at 27 years old with losing 3 children. But I grabbed a hold of the information that was being received. I'm a learner of watching people and seeing their success and seeing their behaviors. I also learn a lot by seeing my behaviors in other people. I get to experience what it looks like standing on the outside, and I'm like, wow, I do that and that looks bad. So I need to change that. So grabbing a hold of the information I was receiving from these wonderful people through these different stages and applying it to my life. Like I needed to apply. And during that process, that was like the third step, applying these things. During the process, I discovered that sometimes when you apply solutions to your life, they don't just magically develop and flourish and you see the sunshine and the butterflies. What I have realized really is that I needed to stay consistent. And over a period of time, I got better. I began to heal more. I began to love more. The more that I began to love myself, the more that loving people became more apparent in my life. And so those were really the main 3 steps that I like to share these.
That's awesome. Where do you see, I've heard you mention the word consistency a couple times. Since then, right? Since that story, and I love how you're talking about how, you're continuing to evolve, you're continuing to see things in other people, and then continuing to have self-reflection and to evolve. When you think of the word consistency, where else are you finding that learning that trait back then is now helping you in real time?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been so many different phases of my life. Like I said, my beginning phase was just don't drink and do drugs. Like that was a big one, but I developed little tiny habits through the course of my early journey that developed into long-term sustainability. And, back then what that looked like was I woke up at the same time every day. I had a cup of coffee at the same time every day. I read the same book every morning. I began to interact with spiritual ways of doing things like praying and journaling and those types of things. I went to a 12-step meeting every single day. I called what they call a sponsor every single day, and those sponsors changed into mentors and people that I look up to. It wasn't just one person. And those little tiny things helped me put together a week of recovery. Then it was a month of recovery. Then it was 90 days of recovery. And then it was 6 months of recovery. And then it was a year. And as that was going on, I started to do other things like hold down a full-time job, and the little tiny micro habits that developed into macro long-term sustainability. Today, it's manifested in so many ways. I've had through my history of childhood, young adulthood, and through my addiction, a lot of mental, emotional, physical, and sexual trauma. I was one of those girls who did whatever you had to do to make $5 to get more. And as a result of doing that, prostitution, homelessness, these types of environments caused me to be in some really, really bad situations, which naturally coming into recovery, I leaned on the unhealthiest relationships that you can lean on, Yeah. But there was something that was working with my micro habit changes that was starting to help me see a lot sooner than I used to, that this isn't healthy for me. I need to move away from it. And I was developing this confidence and a self-worth in me because I was doing esteemable things. And I was really starting to enjoy and love who I was, and I was able to walk away. And I did, go through several relationships in recovery, friendships, intimate relationships. And as a result of working on myself in this area started to get better as well. And I always like to say that relationships, everyone I got into got tremendously healthier every time. It was like I was learning from trial and error. I could write an application at this point if you wanted to date me, but I was blissfully married 5 years ago to the greatest man on earth. And that was a result of through the trial and errors and developing micro habits through that process to have long-term sustainability. And what I love is that everything that I've been able to get through as a result of those changes, I've been put in the direct path to help other people in that. literally in the direct path. Forget about, the substance use. Like that's a big deal. It's a big part of my life. That's where I started this conversation off, because without my recovery, I would not have anything else.
Yeah.
But I see now today that everything I've ever been through in life, including the sexual trauma, the emotional and the physical trauma, I'm able to help other people with it. And then like I overcome one thing and the onion peels down, and underneath the onion is like a little peekaboo of, hey, you got some stuff down in here too. And I got to get through that area just so that I can help and serve other people in that area. And it's been a really wonderful journey doing that, Sabrina.
100%. When you think about overall, the overall lesson, what would you say would be the overall lesson that you've learned about life?
There's a lot going on in that question. Okay. But the one thing that comes to mind when you say that is, and this is going to sound bad and maybe very negative to a woman or any human being really, but one of my mentors told me a long time ago. It was kind of funny. It was a funny thing at the moment, but I do take it to heart. And that is, you're not getting well anytime soon. And what that means to me is that even though I do identify as being recovered in that area, I always have work to do. All phases and stages of my life, I can never put down the idea that there is more out there for me in life. And in that journey, though, I've discovered a lot of like values and beliefs that I had from childhood, from early recovery years. They're no longer valid to me anymore. I don't think like that anymore. For example, you got to work hard for your money. You should be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if you want to make a good earning. And if you made X, Y, and Z, you better be grateful for it, because there's people that are starving in Africa. Like that was my mindset. And although that is true and those things are really happening in the world, it's not what I feel like anymore. Today, I feel like I'm going to work smarter, not harder. And if I could earn more, I could help more. And money is not my enemy. Money is not my enemy at all, actually. I do believe in God, and I have transformed my entire spiritual life early in my journey of recovery. I had a spiritual awakening that changed the course and direction of my life when I was 5 months into my recovery. And I believe that God has put me on amazing paths so that I can succeed, flourish, prosper, learn through trial and error, so that I could benefit not just people that are touching me right here in my home and in my community, but far, far out. The ripple effect can be impactful. And I love that.
Yeah. Money is not my enemy. I could see that being a limiting belief, that money is my enemy to a lot of people. It's bad. It's negative. It's scary. Don't have a lot. Stay humble.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that come from? Where did that limiting belief come from for you?
Probably my mom was a single mom growing up, and she worked double, triple hours as a bartender at Flanagan's in Hollywood. And she was a single mom. So I was home alone all the time by myself. I was very mischievous. Clearly, it brought me into some pretty bad places. But she worked hard and she worked as hard as she possibly could. And she remained grateful for whatever she got, and I think she did a really great job as a mom. And I know that's where it came from. When I came into recovery and I started to take things seriously in life, I was 27. I used to think the same way. I'm like, I got to work double, triple. I got to work weekends, holidays. I got to do whatever I got to do to take care of my kids, because it's important that they have food on the table, roof over their head. And even if that means neglecting my children, even if that means like not showing up for their talent show at school or sitting at the table and providing one-on-one help with their math, like that meant it was more important than that. And that's where I think I got it from is truthfully that. In fact, my motto when I came into recovery and started like doing well in life, I was like, if you love your job, you never have to work a day in your life. I used to say that all the time. And even though I did like my job, I was never paid well, ever. So I was always struggling.
Yeah, definitely. What does success mean to you where you are now?
Being just, I think that success means being okay with where I'm at in life. No more shaming, blaming, you know, internalizing the negative about myself. I think success is knowing that I'm right where I need to be and that I'm always have room for growth and to give myself grace when I fall off track on any path, whether it be in my business, whether it be in my health journey, whether it be who I am as a parent, whether it be who I am as a wife, as a friend or a mentor, giving myself grace and not putting myself on a pedestal. I think that is like success. Because if those things are all in order, everything else just falls into place.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think the benefit of all of the work that you've done as far as personal development, your mental and emotional health? What has been the biggest benefit to your children?
Mm, that's a really good one. So I currently now have 5 children, but when I got sober, I had 3. My oldest, who's 10 at the time of sobriety, when I first got clean, she was 10. She's now going to be 25 next month. But she had the most negative impact from my addiction. You know, I was the mom who was MIA all the time. You know, there was often times where she thought that I was dead. She wrote letters to me that hopefully if she had found me, she would be able to give them to me. And a lot of those letters stated she thought I was at heaven. And it was really sad. It was a lot of damage there. My second child was 3 years old when she was removed from me, and she was placed in a home in Georgia and adopted. She's now 19. And then my little one, he was 5 months old. He's a result of prostitution. I don't know who his father is. I'll never know who his father is. And I don't say that with pride. You know, I say that with truth. Like that's part of my story. Those 3 children really had the most impact. My other 2 got to see me at my absolute best. Even my 5-month-old, you know, I've raised him all in my recovery. He's never seen me drink or do drugs. But in my early recovery, just like I told you before, you know, my job and my recovery were my number one priority. I strapped him on my back. We went to meetings. He went to work with me. He sat on the floor of my job. You know, he got to go to all the recovery events, which were fun for him, but it's different. You know, it's different. I have a 5-year-old now, and she gets full mommy. Full mommy. I work for myself now. I have a lot of flexibility, a lot more actually, financial freedom. And I'm able to be here fully present for her for everything. So, you know, today, a lot of my personal and professional, and my children, obviously. My oldest wants to do what I do. She wants to be a health coach. She wants to give back. She did go to school at FSU. She got her master's degree in social work. She did that because of her mom. You know, she did that because of her own experience with addiction and mental health. And so I think that that's impacted her a lot. My 19-year-old just wrote an essay for her college. She's also now at FSU, and she wrote an essay about me, about her biological mother, and how her biological mother suffered with addiction, but has transformed her life. And she does a lot of public speaking and helping a lot of people, and that she would like to be just like her biological mother. I mean, like,
Wow.
how is that not just the most awesome thing in the whole entire world, you know? And then, so my 15-year-old son, he's a character, you know, I homeschool him, and he mocks me all the time. Like, he's not here right now, thankfully, because he'd be over here mocking me. But he could tell my whole speech, and he could tell my whole recovery story, my whole professional story. So, you know, whether we know it or not, whatever we're doing, they're
Yep.
sucking it in, man. They are sucking it in. So I love it.
Little sponges. Yeah, I remember with my son, I kind of like did the whole thing as almost like an experiment. Like, what would happen if I showed up fully in love? You know what I mean? Like, just different than the way that I was raised. Not the way that I was raised was like bad, but it was not my ideal, which I think a lot of people have that story. But it's been interesting seeing that, like seeing the mimicking of the way that I was with him and things that I really put a lot of effort into. And then now seeing the repercussion of who he is now as a person, as a reflection back, is just crazy. Like sometimes I sit and I'm like, I can't even believe that I did this, you know? It's just so interesting how that happens. You know, they're like little minions. We don't realize how much power we have with our children.
Exactly. I love that. It's true.
What would you wish for?
So many wishes. I truly want my life to leave a legacy for my children and for their children. And, 15 years ago, had I died from a drug overdose or from a brutal rape or murder or ended up in prison for the rest of my life, I would not have been remembered. I would not have. It would have been, my mom, and that would have been my kids might not have even really remembered me because they were so young. But today I know if I were to go, I'm very comfortable where I'm at in life. I know that I'll leave a legacy, and my wish is to impact as many people as I can while I'm here and continue to do so after I'm gone.
What does your legacy stand for?
Hope, redemption, recovery. Anything's possible.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Are your kids seeing that?
Yes, absolutely. We're hope makers over here. We call ourselves the hope dealers. Okay. If we could do it, so can you. And it's like I said, it's not just about drinking and doing drugs anymore. We've moved past that. Yep. We still don't drink and do drugs, but it's so much more than that now. It's like whatever you want to do in life, you can through guidance of somebody who's already been there and done that, through applying whatever that is in your life, and also staying consistent over time, you will succeed. I learned that, if I'm tired, take a rest. I don't have to say, no, I'm not doing it anymore. Just take a break, get right back on it. If I feel pitiful and I just want to whine about it, cool, whine about it. Get on the pity pot. When you're done, flush it, and don't leave a mess behind you, because my pity can definitely take down other people. And it's all right to feel bad every now and then about yourself and about your situation. But we ain't got time for that. Get it going, man. Get it going. And also we also leave here in my house, and I hope that my kids will continue to express that, is that if it's not working for you, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not incapable of doing it. You just might have to step outside of your comfort zone and do something different that might actually end up being the most comfortable thing you've done in your life.
Yeah.
I've stayed in so many of these circles, these comfort zones, and I thought, for real, outside of the comfort zone is scary. It's totally not going to work for me. It's going to be very uneasy. And guess what? As soon as I get out and I start living and breathing it, I'm like, whoa, I wasted a whole lot of time in that terrible zone.
Yeah, definitely. How does that look for you as far as parenting your children around drugs and alcohol? What's the conversations, the open conversations that you're having with them, considering your past?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I am a firm believer that people learn through trial and error. They have to experience what they have to experience to get the knowledge that they need for themselves. Yes, of course, I tell people in my family, my children, that you have been predisposed to addictive behaviors, whether that come in drugs, alcohol, food, sex, money, attention, any of those things. You've been predisposed to it, but it doesn't mean that you have to live it. We can replace those types of addictions with positive behaviors and still get the fill that you're looking for and have positive outcomes rather than negative consequences. So my daughter's obviously old enough to drink. She goes to the club every now and then and she drinks. She told me the first time she was 21, she went to the club. She said, I went to the club last night and I drank. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then I'm like, well, how did it go? And she says, well, I took 4 shots, but it was fine. I didn't even feel anything. And I was like, oh no, she took 4 shots and didn't feel anything. That's a problem. And then I explained to her that would actually be more of an issue than not. And she was very mindful of it. And shortly thereafter was in a class about substance use and the effects that it have on a body who's been predisposed to it. So she's a little bit more cautious. And my 19-year-old was raised in a very strict home with very strong Christian beliefs and no wiggle room for error. So she's got her own challenges, but she does lean on me a whole lot and knows about addiction very much. She's educated herself through her childhood because of losing her mom to addiction. And my son, he'll be 16 next year. And he tells me all the time, I don't even know why people smoke. It's so stupid. I'm like, I know. Isn't that dumb? And then he's like, I don't even get why do people get addicted to drugs anyways? Why would you even do them? I'm like, I don't know. It's dumb. I told him, I'm like, you're going to be in a situation one day where somebody's drinking or somebody's using drugs. And I want you to be prepared for it. I mean, what can you do? People told me all my childhood, your family's drug addicts. Don't touch drugs. I did it anyways, you know?
Yeah.
So
they're all going to have their own story. I love how you're being so, first of all, real, but then second of all, really acknowledging that you can't control them.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
think that's almost more powerful when you kind of like, you're like, these are the things, however, I can't do anything. So whatever.
Nope. And so I learned a big thing in my recovery journey, by the way. This was a huge game changer for me, that I don't have to have answers, even for my own children. And like I used to be the answer queen. In fact, they used to call me the yellow pages, because if anybody had a question about anything to do with anything at all, they'd call Bobbie. And if I didn't know the answer, I'd Google it and send it to them. And that was an exhausting way of life. Although I didn't know it, I know now. My kids call me with some crazy questions. And if I know the answer, but I think that they're still going to do whatever they want to do anyways, it's usually relationship type of stuff. Yeah. I'll tell them, I don't know. I don't know. If I really don't know the answer, I say, I don't know. Now, if it's a simple thing and they're like, hey, where's the best place you've ever gone to, you know, eating Fort Lauderdale, I'll give them an answer. But those complex things, I'm like, I don't know. And it's so amazing, because guess what? They're going to learn it and they're going to do whatever they want to do, even if you tell them what to do.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I feel like I say something similar to that, but not quite that. What do I say? But it's like you have to put it back on them. As far as, you know, it's your decision, you know? Yeah. And I think that is so powerful. That's one thing that I actually really appreciated about my mom. You know, my mom never really asked me questions, because she knew that if I didn't want to tell her, I would just lie about it. And if I did want to tell her, then I would tell her. So she never really asked me any questions, even up to this day, because she's just kind of like, if you want to tell me, you'll tell me. And if you don't want to tell me, like if I ask, you're just going to lie. So why would I put you in a circumstance to lie? So I've actually kind of adopted that for my son too. Like I'm very just, you do you. And if you need me, I'm here. But as far as like huge inquiries on like certain parts of his life or where he's been or what he's doing, I kind of just, because that's one thing that I actually really appreciated about my mom, is she kind of, you know, there was rules, you know. But
well, I think about you know, relationship stuff, for example. That's one thing I learned in helping other women, is when I start putting my input in on their relationship, there is a wall that comes up and the bridge is gone and there's a barrier. So my daughter was having some relationship issues with a guy, and she would call and tell me about him all the time. I mean, too much detail, if you know what I mean. And I would listen to her and listen to her. And I would just at the, end, I'm like, babe, I hope all that works out. And she asked me anything, I'd say, I don't know. It's something you're going to go through and figure out on your own. But really, I wanted to tell her all the things, I got all the things to tell you, but she ain't going to listen to me. Just like not a human being is either when it comes to relationship stuff. Yeah. And guess what? Like, she figured it out. Might have taken her a year and a half or two, but she probably learned it faster on her own than if I would have tried to force feed it to her.
Totally. Yeah. Great advice. Definitely agree with you on that. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge those watching live. Thank you so much for being here, for hanging out with us and listening to Bobbie and I chit chat here. Those watching on the replay, if you are watching on the replay, make sure you comment so we know where you're watching us at. We can send you some love because even though you're watching it a little bit later, we still want to say hi. We do have a chat here. Do you want to read this, Bobbie?
Yeah, sure.
This one.
All right. Yes, I tell my child, we start as wild humans. I know I can suggest something, but she's going to whatever she wants. Very similar thinking here. I usually say you'll figure it out, but if she asks about my experience, I may share. Yes. Personal experience is key. I love personal experience because it's your experience. It's not coming from a place of control. It's not coming from a place of I know better. It's not coming from a place of expectation. It's just my experience. I love that. Yep.
Definitely.
Very good.
So I would love to hear more about what you do. There's so many things that you're involved in, which I just love because it just so shows the amount of the evolution, I guess, of who you were to where you are now is just like night and day. It's crazy. It's like not even just like a little hill. Like you climbed a freaking mountain. You went from like here to here. I just think it's so cool. So I'd love to know more about what you do. And then I would also like to know where people can find you. Those that are staying on, listening to us this entire time, they're obviously resonating with you and all the goodness that you're doing. So where can they find you?
Yes. Okay. So a little bit quick history. I've been in the substance use and mental health field for 11 years. I'm a certified recovery peer specialist here in the state of Florida, as well as a certified addiction counselor. And I actually was working for the agency I met Sabrina at. I was a lead adult coordinator there for 6 years, and I loved the agency so much. But in that time of working there, I actually fell into this health coaching community because number one, I was completely overweight. I was 200 pounds, not doing well with my physical health, even though I was still feeling great and loving life and just being full of joy. I was not happy with where I was with my physical health. A friend from church posted a transformation photo on her Facebook. I got on a phone call, followed her lead, and it changed my life. I lost 55 pounds in just a short 5.5 months. And on that journey of losing weight, all my friends and coworkers and family members, including my husband, my 2 daughters, my sister, my previous stepmother, a lot of my community, to say the least, were like, hello, what are you doing? We want your help. We want your help. And I started helping them on their health journey, and everybody was successful. Like everybody was successful. They were losing weight, feeling really good, and they were talking about it all over town. And I was like, man, I like this. This is good. So I started coaching with a nationwide coaching business of my own, and I just love it. I've been able to coach over 300 people in the last year and a half to achieve wonderful health goals in their life. But more importantly, I've been able to help assist 28 men and women into their own coaching business as well. So I'm now considered a a business coach as well as a health coach. I love, love, love it. We focus strictly on nutrition to get down to the weight loss goal while remaining healthy and full of energy. And the day that you hit your goal, we transition you into something more physical for long-term sustainability. What I love about this compared to anything that I've done before in the past is that we incorporate 5 components. The first one is individual and team coaching, which means I am your biggest cheerleader the whole time. I'm also there to offer you additional tips, answer questions, hold you accountable. And the team coaching part is my mentors jump on calls with my clients every so often, and they also cheer them on and offer additional tips and support. And the second component is our community. We have a great community. We actually have a private Facebook page with over 50,000 members on there sharing recipes and before and after photos. It's a really great place for resources and support. On top of that, part of the community, we have a meeting every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is nationwide. There's over 1,000 people on this call. It's only 30 minutes long. It's short, sweet, and recorded. So people miss it, they can watch it later. But during those 30 minutes, we give testimonies, we give education, always leaving that call feeling a lot more pumped up about our journey of health. And what's really great is right after that 9 o'clock call at 9:30, we log right back in to learn how to help other people on this journey for free. It's awesome. I love it. Now, the third component is key. It's very different from anything I've done before in the past, and that's our education. This is all about getting the brain healthy. This is about cognitive behavioral changes, because losing weight's only half the battle. We want to make sure not only do you lose the weight, more importantly, that you keep it off. Studies show that 80% of people who diet and don't actually change their behaviors will gain their weight back in less than 2 years. That's fast, and that's a huge part of our population. So people who are successful, long-term sustainability are those who dive into getting their mind healthy. I'm talking about healthy habits, healthy relationship with food, and healthier mindset. Okay, that's key for long-term sustainability. My coaching community, my coaching business helps you incorporate those cognitive behavioral changes, which is key. And then the fourth component, of course, is the nutrition. It's what we eat. We actually eat 6 times a day. We eat 6 times a day. We eat 6 small meals. And keeping track, you have nothing to do with it. I literally tell you exactly what to do and how to do it. You just got to close your eyes, open it, eat it, and keep on going. And with that being said, we have an average weight loss of 10 to 12 pounds a month. That's average. Trust me, it's usually more than that. And it's in a really great way, feeling awesome when you're doing it. And at the very point in time that you hit your goal, I help transition you so that you can have long-term sustainability, know what to eat, how to eat, when to eat it. And you'll also be able to enjoy foods and drinks of your choice later in moderation. And we teach you all of that, which is so phenomenal. I lost 55 pounds and I've kept it off for over a year and a half. Big deal. Big deal. Yeah. Fifth component, hidden golden nugget. Okay. Hidden golden nugget. If you keep what you have, you won't continue to get it. So we give back what was so freely given to us so that we can continue our health journey, stay accountable, impact this community. Our community has a ripple effect across everywhere. I have clients in California, Idaho, Texas, North Carolina, Georgia, Michigan, Maine, Colorado. It is unlimited, the impact you can have on people by walking your own journey of redemption, hope, recovery, and health. I love it. You can find me on Facebook is the best place to go. I'm Bobbie, Bobbie .Rogers, Rogers 80. That's where you're going to find me. And I know Sabrina has it up on this podcast, and it will probably be in the follow-up information too.
100%. I love that. What's your big dream for your business?
Layers upon layers upon layers of freedom. Freedom comes in many forms. It's not just money. Freedom is time. Being able to be here and have the flexibility to do what I want when I want to do it is just unbelievable. It's been life-changing. I just went on a 5-day trip to Mexico with my coaches. It was all amazing. We were getting poured into by some of the most greatest people that I know. But I was able to like just leave, I don't have to get PTO time and say, hey, I need this time off and then like take a pay cut for being out of town. I'm going to Disney in December again, just it's already paid for. I didn't have to be like, well, kids, maybe we would go somewhere, but I'm not sure, maybe if mommy saves, we can go. No, we're going, like those types of freedoms as well. But also like the luxury of just doing what I want when I want to do it. I'm going to go speak tonight at an anniversary meeting for a large group of women because I have the ability to do so. I'm not going to be too tired, irritable, hungry, lonely, because I've had the freedom to take care of myself today on the maximum level. Now, one of the greatest things that I want to do at my business is help other people do that. I want to help other people do that. I have a passion for helping people in their recovery and losing weight, but man, I have really found a passion in helping other people find freedom. That's where it's at.
Yeah, totally agree. Why do you do what you do?
Because I know that there has been a divine power in my life that has opened the gates up on many levels for me. I've literally had it made. When I say that, like, it doesn't mean that my life hasn't been hard. It's been hard. We have challenges. In fact, my husband and I were married on June 3rd, 2017. 24 hours later, we began a series of deaths. His mom overdosed and died 24 hours after our wedding. 4 weeks to the day, my dad overdosed and died. 3 weeks later, his brother, my uncle, overdosed and died. My baby cousin, who I named my first daughter after, Alicia, she overdosed and died. And then about 9 months later, my husband's father overdosed and died. And then less than a year later, my husband's sister overdosed and died. And then his uncle found out he wasn't feeling well, went to the hospital, had liver cancer, died the next day. I mean, it was really dramatic. This was all in a very short period of time after we got married. So things are going to happen.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. Despite all of that, I find joy in life. I find joy in day-to-day stuff, even when there's a whole bunch of things to cry about. I love that. Why would I not want other people to feel that way through all of their life stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So impactful. Wow. Definitely. How'd you guys get through that?
Recovery sets you up for success. The first death was on a Monday morning, and we were at a meeting, 5:00 Monday evening, and we were surrounded by love. Our church showed up for us in amazing ways, provided awesome services for all of our family members. And every time we had a loss, they set up a food train and sent us food. I think it's so important to be connected to community wherever you are, whether that be faith-based, whether that be fellowship-based, whether that be your art friends, your mommy friends, your daddy friends, I don't know, whatever it is, like have a community and be around people that are like-minded. If you want to grow, have a handful of really awesome people who are doing it much further along than you are, because those are the people who are going to pour into you and give you the guidance that you're looking for, that you didn't even know you needed until you got it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, this has been phenomenal. I so appreciate you sharing some of your story and your journey and all of the goodness that you're doing now in your life. I mean, what a great, victorious story to be able to have and to be able to share for those not only who aren't suffering exactly your story, but those who maybe know somebody who are, going through something similar to what you went through, and knowing that there is hope and that, people do come out on the other side and just totally make impacts in this world that are beyond anything that others choose to do. So I love what you're doing. I love what you stand for. I love the mission that you're on. Thank you so much for being here. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
Oh, Just that I love and appreciate all of you guys who took time and listened to me. I hope that you could take just at least one thing out of my speech today and bring it to your community, because it's like we can't wrap our mind around helping the whole world, but we could certainly help one, and that one can help one, and it'll continue to spread out in love. And God bless all of you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much. For those of you listening live or on the replay, if you resonated with Bobbie and all the goodness that she shared today, make sure to find her on Facebook, which is Bobbie with an IE.ANN.Rogers 80. It is in the picture right above her head area, and it should also be in the description below to be able to click. We love connecting people here on this platform and to make sure that we continue to rise. Thank you so much for joining us here on Her Version. This community is expanding every single day. It is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are looking to be on a podcast, make sure that you reach out to me at hernation.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others. As always, do something awesome.